Hey everybody, it's Pam and Bill at Country Living Newbie Custom Decor in Spring Hill, Tennessee. Hope everyone is having a great Monday, a great start to your week. We have a beautiful day here in Spring Hill, Tennessee. We are located about 30 to 40 miles south of Nashville, right in Middle Tennessee. It's beautiful. We're a premier Dixie Belle retailer here. We've been here a year. Yesterday was our 1 year anniversary. So we're very excited about that. We sell the entire Dixie Belle paint line, and we're also a retailer for Redesign with Prima. So we have an extensive selection, Bill, if you want to pan over, we have an extensive selection of Redesign with Prima transfers. And behind Bill, which by the way, Bill's my husband, we're a husband and wife team. He's behind the camera today, so say hello to Bill. Hey everybody. And then behind him, we have an extensive selection of stencils, chalk paste, decor waxes, so lots of Prima products, every Dixie Belle product, lots of fun DIY stuff. So thank you for joining us on this Monday. Please invite a friend. We put our link to our page up in the description, so hop on over there and check us out there. We also put links for our affiliate link to order Dixie Belle paint. If you don't have a local retailer, you're welcome to use our link, but please go to the Dixie Belle paint website first, type in your zip code and see if you have a retailer close to you. We love for you guys to come out to the store and talk with us, so please support your local retailer first. If you don't have one, we'll be happy to be yours. I also put a link if you are interested in any of the Redesign with Prima products. You can go on our Square store and take a look at those as well. We ship all the transfers and stencils and lots of their products as well. So please jump on, say hello, and tell us where you're from. We always love to see how far and wide we're reaching.
Jackie from Alabama, Christina from Idaho.
Okay, cool.
Lori from Massachusetts so far. Dixie Belle's here.
Hi, Dixie
Carla
Belle.
from Wisconsin. And Dixie Belle says congratulations on our 1 year.
I know, we're so excited. And in our 1 year, we made the top 100 retailers in 2018. So we are stoked. This is a really supportive town in Spring Hill as far as Dixie Belle paint. They absolutely love it. Okay, so we're going to jump in. Now, we're doing a Lazy Susan today, and many of you have probably done a Lazy Susan before. Maybe took a workshop, or maybe you've given a workshop on Lazy Susans. You can get these wood boards at Home Depot. They come in some different sizes. I think this is a 15 and a half inch diameter board. And then you can get also the bottom that goes on it. So it spins, right? So you have your typical Lazy Susan. So they often look like this. Usually you'll stain it, or you can paint it, put a stencil on it. You know, lots of different kinds of stencils. You can do gather or other little sayings. This is just a couple examples of what we sell and what we do in the store. We actually have a Lazy Susan workshop tomorrow night. So if you're local, come on in and take that class with us. So
if you're local, like Susan from Texas.
Susan, you can make it. If you leave now, you can make it. We'll save you a seat. So we keep some examples of just some of the Lazy Susans that we do. And this is a little bit of a color wash on here. We have some stencils. This was done around the holidays. We do some stamping and some other stencils. This is Dixie Belle's, what's the name of the color? It's escaping me. Temptress. So this is their Temptress stain. So you can do so much with Lazy Susans. So today, we're going to do something a little bit different, and we're going to use a couple different techniques to create it. So this I did yesterday, and the reason I did it yesterday is because we're going to put a Redesign with Prima transfer on it, and I wanted to make sure that the wood and the paint was good and dry before we did that. So this uses a variety of techniques, and we're gonna recreate that on the plain board, and then we're going to put the stencil or the transfer on this board.
So explain what those blue pieces of tape are.
So the blue pieces of tape are Bill's nice way of making sure I get the transfer centered. I was really just going to kind of eyeball it, but we'll go ahead and do it the official way. And it even says top on the top. He's usually pretty good about putting no on the side I'm not supposed to use. And you know, you get on camera sometimes and you just like forget everything. So these little visual clues are always good. So variety of techniques on this. If you've watched any of our videos before on the Dixie Belle page and on our own page, I love to dry brush. I think it's one of the most fun techniques. It's one of the easier techniques, and you can create a bazillion different looks with it. So we're gonna do a little bit of dry brushing on this, which sounds kind of funny because we're gonna use a lot of water also to create this look. So The colors on this board are, let's look at these, are Dixie Belle's Fluff. Let me do it this way.
That's fluffy.
That's Fluffy. Fluffy. So Fluff is, Dixie Belle makes 4 different whites, and Fluff is a little bit of a gray undertone, very subtle. And then we're going to use Gravel Road, which is a very pretty gray. And then we're going to use In the Navy, which is a true navy. It can almost look black if you're not holding it next to another color. So it's a true navy. It's beautiful.
Hard to tell in this light.
Yeah, yeah. So we're going to use those 3 colors. These are Dixie Belle's 8-ounce jars. They also come in 16-ounce and 32-ounce, so lots of different sizes. This will cover about 38 square feet, so you could do a dresser with one of these. You know, if you're, even with 2 coats, you can cover a dresser. So super long-lasting, and the paint goes a long way. Okay, so we're going to put this aside because we're going to recreate this on a new board, and then we're going to come back and do the transfer. And so one thing I learned the first time I did a Lazy Susan was to pay attention how the grain goes. So when you're doing your stain or your color wash, you always want to go with the grain, okay, not back and forth against the grain. If you're painting, it probably doesn't matter a whole lot because you're covering the grain, but for what we're doing, we want to make sure that we're going with the grain. The other important thing is when you're putting your design on, you also want to either go with the grain, you know, one way or the other. So the first one I did, I think, was like this, like the grain was going diagonal. So Bill was like, you may want to pay attention to that grain. So a little tip when you're putting your stencil on, always pay attention to the grain.
There are times when going diagonal or something might work.
And we go against the grain on some other things,
Yes,
so,
yeah,
you know.
but
Okay.
maybe metaphorically.
Yes. Okay, so we're gonna start doing a base coat of this with what's called a wash. So we're gonna use a very diluted paint, and we're just gonna, it's almost gonna work like a stain on our wood. We don't wanna cover the wood, we don't wanna cover the grain, we just kinda wanna wash it with our paint. So we're using the FIFO bottles. We get a lot of questions about that. It's a first in, first out. You can get them on Amazon. I find the ones with the yellow tip, and they will have different color tips, but the yellow ones work very well for me. The paint doesn't get like clogged up or anything in there. So you always want to shake it real good. And we'll squirt a little bit out.
I notice you put your finger over the little port.
Yeah, so you don't want to, like, you know, shake it.
Yeah. Because as you're shaking, any little bit of pressure you put on that bottle,
It's gonna come out. And if you drop it on the floor, forget it. It just shoots all the way across the room. Saying that for a friend, because I know that happened to somebody I know. Okay, so
it's always the friend, right?
It's always a friend. Asking for a friend. So we're going to use Dixie Belle's premium chip brush for this today. We don't need to use any high quality synthetic brushes today. We're doing a wash, we're doing some dry brushing. And again, if you guys watch us at all or follow us, my most famous saying is cheapo chip brush. For dry brushing, get something cheap, something with kind of frayed edges. You want that look, okay? You're not trying to go for no brush strokes and a super silky smooth look. So chip brushes are amazing. So
did you offload the brush?
I didn't, because you can go pretty heavy when you do a wash on paint, on wood, because you're going to dilute it a lot. So I'm just putting it on and spraying it, and I'm really just washing the board with it.
What kind of bottle?
Mr. Bottle. Mr. Bottles are your friend. I know we're doing some dry brushing later, which you won't need a Mr. Bottle for. Actually, you kind of will need a Mr. Bottle for the dry brushing we're doing. So we'll explain that when we get there.
When you say Mr., you're not talking about...
Not you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not like
Bill's
male
wearing-
or female.
No.
It's
Like a fine mist.
mist.
Okay?
Completely different than a spray bottle.
Right. It's not going to leave big blobs of water on your piece. So again, we're just putting this on heavy. You can wet the board even before you put the paint on. It doesn't matter. You can put the paint on, wet it, or wet it and put the paint on. The key is you just need to have enough water to kind of wash this around. And you can see I'm going with the grain, right? And because we're saturating this wood you know, it'll take a little while to dry. So you really don't want to do a transfer or anything right after. You got to give this some good time to dry, which is why I did the one yesterday. And then we'll paint this one today. And if you want a little lighter coat, so we can really dilute this and make it, you know, super transparent, or we can keep it a little thicker. It's whatever you want. It's your day. It's your lazy Susan. You pick. You decide. If you mess it up, who cares? Paint. Just re-wet it. Repaint it. Whoopsie. Oh, wow. I just realized.
Wow, you got paint on yourself.
I don't have my.
You don't have your smock.
I don't have my apron on today.
Yeah, that shirt's ruined.
Yeah, so let's wear a black shirt and paint with white. Fabulous. Okay. I'm not going to really worry about the edges today. We really just want to show you some different techniques on this.
Sorry about the shadow.
Your shadow?
Just because of the way the light is.
Okay.
But I just want to get a good picture of the grain coming right through the paint.
Yeah,
That's great.
It looks like a white stain. And always, you know, watch with your chip brushes because they'll shed a little bit. You don't need to wipe this back, but I'm going to wipe it just to help it dry a little bit so we can get on to our next step. We're going to do some blending next, so it doesn't have to be dry. I'm going to re-wet it anyway. But I just kind of want to see how what kind of coverage we have on there.
Nancy Kozlowski got here a little late, wants to know where we get the unfinished Lazy Susans from.
Home Depot. Home Depot, they have a variety of sizes, and they have the little ring that goes on the bottom.
All right, Home Depot, we give you a plug.
Yeah. Send me some.
Give us free stuff.
Send me free Lazy Susans. Okay. All right, so that's our first coat of Fluff, and we did what's called a wash with that, like a whitewash, because it is white. And then we're going to take our Gravel Road, which is our gray. We're going to put a little bit on there.
Did you shake it?
I probably shook it before.
You did?
Yeah, I think I shook them all before we came on. But good point. Always shake your paint. Dixie Belle paint is very pigmented. So if your jar or your bottle's been sitting a while, you definitely want to give it a shake and make sure all those, all the pigments get through evenly. Okay, so now we're going to take, and you know, when I did the board yesterday, and for those of you who just joined, this is what we're going to be recreating. When I did the board yesterday, I used one brush. I never changed brushes through the entire thing. We'll use a couple different ones today, but you can get this look with one simple chip brush. Chip brush. Did I say chimp?
You said chimp
brush.
No chimps were hurt in the making of these brushes.
So easy a chimp could do it. I don't know.
I don't want to get people angry.
All right, so now we didn't offload our first brush because we wanted some heavy paint so we could really water it down and move it around. I'm definitely not going as heavy with the second color because this color is really for blending and we just want a little bit, but we have to keep this wet, right? If we're blending, we really want to keep things wet.
Jen, they're FIFO bottles, right?
Yeah, first in, first out. They're condiment bottles. You can get them on Amazon. They come in a couple different sizes.
They're not made by Giants, which would be the FIFO bottles.
Yeah, yes. Okay. So you can see here, I re-wet my original base coat and I took just a tiny bit of Gravel Road and I'm just gently going back and forth. Make sure you keep this wet because as soon as it's dry, you're basically dry brushing and you're just laying paint on, right? So we just want like a nice soft blend. And I'm going back for a little bit, and I'm really not even dipping into my big puddle of paint there. I'm just getting a little bit from what I offloaded. We're gonna wet this again. I'm barely touching this board. I know, you probably can't see the amount of pressure I'm using, but I'm barely touching this. And I think I want it a little bit heavier on the outside, and then we'll bring it lighter as we get into the middle. But I don't want to see a lot of heavy gray because we're going to save that for our third color, which is going to be in the navy. And we're going to do a little bit different technique for that. So we're going to come over here. I'm going to wet this side. And it's going to reactivate the white paint just a little bit, which will help us blend. And if you get it too heavy, don't worry. Go back over it with some water and some of your fluff again. And just keep working it until you get the look that you want. And so you can see over here, I'm a little bit more streaky. Here, I'm a little bit more blended. So I have a little bit too much water there. So we're just gonna come back on with a little bit more paint. Try to get some streaks in there.
Mr. Bottles, where do you get those?
You can get them on Amazon. Some of the Dixie Belle retailers sell them. We have them in the store. We don't ship those. Honestly, it's easier for you to go on Amazon than to get them from me. But there are some retailers that sell them. But you can go on Amazon, type in FIFO. What are we talking about, Mr. Bottles?
Mr. Bottles.
Sorry, type in Mr. Bottle, and you'll get a ton of different ones. And I usually, after my lives, get a lot of questions on those, so I can put a link in the comments to where I get them. So again, we're just kind of re-wetting things very lightly, going over. So, you know, we're kind of dry brushing on a wet surface, if that makes sense. Very little paint over just a damp surface.
Most of the time you're wetting your brush.
For what?
When you're using your Mr. Bottle, you usually wet your brush.
Yeah,
in this you're wetting the piece.
You're actually wetting this because I want the water there.
A dry brush.
Yeah. Yep. All right, we're gonna go over one more time here. Want a little more gray.
Yeah, just that center.
Got some fuzzies here. I didn't sand this board. Probably should have. Got a little bit of. Oh, you know what it is? It's coming from my plate. My plate's got fuzzies. Okay.
We get a hello from Brazil.
No way. Wow. Thanks for joining. How cool.
Lynn says you can get them at the beauty supply stores as well.
Yeah, this is what your hairstylist uses for the most part. That's what they are. Yeah, like Sally Beauty has them as well. Yep. All right. So, I think I'm pretty happy with that. So,
Tanya doesn't shop Amazon, so she has to find a retailer.
Awesome. Yes, supporting your small business. If there's any retailers on right now that ship the FIFO bottles, put your link in there. That way people can order from you. All right.
Why don't we ship Mr. Bottles?
I don't have them set up for shipping. I mean, I guess I could. I can do that. All right. So now we're going to go to our third color, which is really going to be what brings out the color in this piece. So we've done 2 of the 3 steps. We've done our whitewash with Fluff. We've done a little bit of dry brush blending. Whoever says those 2 words together, like almost never, dry brush and blending. But now we're going to bring in our third color, which is going to be in the navy. And so the reason I went with this look is because the Prima Transfer that we're going to put on this is nautical in nature. It's from their seaweed collection. So I'll show you that in just a bit. But there was a reason that I went with this look and these colors. Okay.
We got Hella from Denmark.
Wow. Brazil,
Wanda
Denmark.
from Massachusetts.
Lots of states. And man, guys, thank you so much for joining.
Christina's loving this, she says.
It's kind of fun. Okay, so I took another brush, and this is actually just a Harbor Freight chip brush. The Dixie Belle premium chip brushes are very, very high quality for a chip brush. You can use them over and over. Actually, the more you use them, the better they get. They'll shed a little bit initially, but as you keep using them, they really almost stop shedding. So they're fantastic brushes. Okay, so we're gonna take a little bit of our in the navy and just like a little bit on the tip of our brush. We can always add more, okay? And always add more. So this is kind of where the dry brushing with water comes into effect. And you know what? I'm gonna dry this just a little bit. Pardon the noise.
Angel from Georgia.
Hello, Georgia.
Debbie from Florida, South Florida.
Hello, Florida. We're from Florida, originally. Well, not originally, but mainly.
Donna joined late. She loves it, but where do we get the wood?
Home Depot.
Home Depot.
Home Depot, and they have several different sizes. They have like one that's ginormous. You can almost put handles on it and make it one of those like playground sit and spin things. This one I think is a 15.5 inch, and then you can get the piece on the bottom that makes it spin. I mean, you don't have to do that too. Actually, we're gonna put handles probably on the other one, but you can put handles on it as well. And it's just a, you know, like a tray. Or you can do both. Knock yourself out. Okay, so now to get that wispy kind of, like, I don't know what you call it, kind of a wispy, streaky, drippy kind of look around the edge.
Because who doesn't love that?
Wispy, drippy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, I'm just gonna spray a little bit on here, and then I'm taking my dry brush, and I'm barely touching. I need to touch a little more. Always start out less, right? Less is more initially. Because you don't want to just get too much on and then have to fix it. Okay, so I'm just really barely touching this over the water around the edges, and you'll see the streaks start to come in. I mean, it's almost kind of like that look where, like if I held it upright and sprayed it and let it drip, but I'm doing it flat instead of holding it up. And I want a little bit more dramatic line, so I'm going to spray a little bit more water.
Bonnie from Western North Carolina.
Hi, Bonnie. Thank you, everybody, for joining.
I had a friend in Northern West Carolina.
No. Guys, I live with this every day. Every day. All right, so I'm just going around the edges. I'm going to probably come back to this because, again, we want a little bit more dramatic look, but we don't have to get it right away, okay? Feel free to layer and keep working with it till you get the look that you want. But again, I got water on here. I'm going from the edge out. And it's almost like watercolors. You know, sometimes you just got to let the water kind of do its thing. Which if you're OCD, this might be difficult. Because it doesn't always flow as you think it's gonna, because the water will just take it. And it'll work with the grain a little bit. We need a little more paint. There we go. And again, don't go too heavy at first. Kind of get the feel for how much paint's gonna come off your brush. That was probably too much, but now that we did it, we're just gonna go with it.
I actually like it.
I like that.
More.
That is cool. That's cool. I like.
So you said the yellow tip on the bottle?
Yeah, I used the...
That was
Are we
weird.
back?
We are back.
Are we back? Someone let us know that we're back. And we'll forgive Bill. He's a Samsung Android guy, and I'm an iPhone Apple girl, so sometimes the phone does weird things. Okay, so actually I'm really, really liking that. So let's just kind of keep going with it. We're gonna just keep squirting around the edge, and we'll fix some of this, right? Because we don't want it to just kind of stop abruptly, or maybe you do, and that's fine too.
I actually like it.
And we'll be putting a transfer over it anyway, so the middle part is not too much of a concern. And it's stopping because I only put water around the edge. So as soon as the water stops, right, that's where it stops flowing.
Yeah.
Okay. And again, we're using a super cheap chip brush for this because we want those nice wispy kind of fragmented ends to create this look. And I mean, you could do this on furniture. This is obviously just not a Lazy Susan thing. All right. I'm gonna take just a dry brush. Now there's nothing on this at all. And just gently go back and forth over this just to get some excess water off. Blend the ends a little bit. Soften it up. I actually like it where it's really heavy.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
I think maybe you should.
So we're just gonna squirt a little bit more.
Yeah.
There we go. Stay with the grain on this. This is so important to stay with the grain doing this, because otherwise it's gonna look pretty funky. Not that funky's bad. Okay. What do you guys think? Thumbs up, hearts, if you guys like it.
I like.
You like?
Maybe not enough in the center.
Yeah, I'm actually wetting the edge now. And I'm gonna go back to using my dry brush and just pulling some of this down. Because again, don't forget, we're gonna have something covering this center part with our transfer.
We were asked if we prepped the wood first.
I did not.
I didn't do
anything to it. I didn't sand it. Now, before we put the transfer on, I did sand it, and we'll talk a little bit about that. We'll be moving on to that in just a sec. So I'm just lightly going over the inside now, and I didn't put heavy water on there, just a little bit, just enough to make the paint kind of flow. But I think I don't want too much in the middle.
Just for a little bit of symmetry, maybe bring some of this up here. We were asked what we're going to do to the edge. So the edge would probably be done in the same method, but just for time's sake.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I may even do the edge in the dark blue.
Just a solid.
Because that kind of makes it seem like that edge is kind of creeping up and going in.
And then it almost frames it.
Yeah. So we'll probably do the edge in the navy. All right.
That's good. Did you dry brush it?
Yep. Oh, what do you mean?
I would dry brush it one more time.
So we're just using, again, a brush with nothing on it. It's completely dry. And you'll see folks doing this a lot when they do blending. Just to kind of smooth everything out, get rid of any edges. When you're blending, you know, we're really trying to keep things in a very strict direction. But when you're blending, you can use your dry brush both ways to bring those colors together. But we don't want to do that in this case because we want all our lines to be going the same way here. All right.
All right. Good.
So we have a little bit different look than that, but pretty close. Pretty close. I actually like this one better.
I think I do too.
Yeah.
I think this color, even though you use the same colors, your color is just a little bit different.
Yeah. It's a little more
muted. This one
muted.
maybe you blend it a little bit more.
Like in the streets.
But
okay.
I think this will be better for that transfer that you're going to use.
Yep. Okay, so this is the one we did yesterday. We're going to be using the Seaweed Transfer. So these transfers are made by Redesign with Prima. And if you're interested, I think I have at least 50, about 50 of them. And we do ship these. And I put the link up in the description. These are amazing. Absolutely amazing. You have to, really look at them when you buy them. They'll always give you an example of what it looks like on a piece of furniture on the front, but sometimes that can be a little bit deceiving, and I will show you why. If you look at this transfer, when I first look at this, I think the transfer is black, has a black background with flowers on it. Okay, always flip it over and look at the example on the back where it's not on furniture, because then you'll know, does it have a clear background? Does it have a colored background? Does it come in different pieces? This is very important. So
let me show them this one that we're going to use. This one has 4 transfers.
I'm gonna
separate ones.
I'm gonna show them all. Yikes.
Yikes.
Yikes. Okay, so here's a really good example. So they show one of their transfers on the front of a piece of a dresser, and absolutely beautiful, right? I think, okay, I have a couple strips that I can put on some drawers. when you turn it over, the transfer is actually all different flowers, leaves, branches, that kind of thing. So you actually build your design from the transfer. So just be aware of that when you buy them, because if you want something that is going to look just like that, you're going to have to kind of create it yourself with this particular one. Okay, so this I need to move these because
I figured out why I'm having trouble with the phone today.
It's an accident waiting to happen. Why?
It's upside down.
It's upside down?
Well, it corrects itself.
Are we upside down?
No, I don't think we're upside down. I'm used to having the phone the opposite way.
Oh, okay.
Which is why
we forgive you.
For a little bit, I had my finger in front of the in front of the camera. And
oh no! Sorry, guys. Sorry, guys.
I didn't do that.
So this one is the Seaweed Transfer. Like Bill said, it comes in 4 different designs, and there's 2 of them attached on each sheet. This one I happened to cut because I was deciding.
Shiny glare.
It's very shiny. Yeah. So this one I cut because we're gonna use this one on our board. So in the package.
And this one is called Seaweed?
The transfer is called Seaweed, yes, and there's 4 different designs.
Because there's 4 different types of stuff that looks like seaweed.
Oh, I dropped it up before.
Yes,
okay. So in all your packages, there are instructions. So read them, just like on Dixie Belle, on the side of their containers. Always read the instructions. You may not always follow them, but they're there for you to learn and follow to the best of your ability and desire. We all tend to.
And if you don't like the instructions, you
make
can
up your
always
own.
go on YouTube and watch one of these videos.
Okay, so that's what we're going to use.
You need to put that in the thing, don't you?
No, that's okay.
Hold on.
That's all right.
Camera's going to pick this up.
That's all right. Don't worry about it. I'll just knock it off again, probably.
Probably.
Okay. And then there's also a wooden stick that comes in each of the containers. So that's what you're going to use to get your transfer off the paper. There's two sheets here, right? So there's a protective backing on there, and then there's the actual transfer paper. Once you start to remove this is sticky. Don't touch it until you have it exactly where you need it to be, because once it's down, you can have a very difficult time pulling it up without leaving part of your transfer on your project. And I know I have top here, so I'll flip it around. These transfers can be cut up. You know, they're so versatile. We're going to use this in one piece, so we're not going to do any cutting. On this board, I did sand this. So I sanded it with one of the Dixie Belle sanding sponges. It's a fine grit.
You sanded after you painted.
After I painted. Actually, this morning. Yeah, we painted yesterday. I sanded today. I wanted to make sure it's good and dry because I soaked the wood pretty well. So we sanded it, and then very important before you put on a transfer, you need to make sure there's no dust or debris or anything on your wood surface, because if those get under the transfer and create any air bubbles, you could have some difficulty with your transfer adhering and with sealing. So,
well, imagine if you had a layer of dust on the surface, it's not going to stick to the surface, it's going to stick to the dust.
To the dust, right. So after you sand, this is a tack cloth. You don't need to use a tack cloth, but it's just real nice and getting up real fine dust. You just wipe it across.
Why is it called a tack cloth?
Because it's tacky.
It's tacky.
Tacky. There's a joke in here, but we're just gonna keep going. Anybody else, feel free to chime in on that. Okay, so we're just kind of wiping it across until it's clean and it's smooth and free of any kind of debris. And this is the packaging. I just ordered them online. I think you can get them Harbor Freight, Home Depot, wherever.
Home Depot.
Home Depot. Okay, so I'm gonna actually turn this around. And so we went ahead and mapped out where we want this to lay. We're gonna pull off our backing. And so this one you can see has a transparent background. Some of them don't. So just be aware of that when you go to put on your piece. And actually, I don't think I want to take the whole thing off yet.
I can hold up the other end if you want.
That'll be all right. Make sure, because I've ruined a transfer or two like this, if you ever go to put it back on the backing. There's only
sure you put it on the waxy side.
Yeah, if you put it on this other side, it's
immediately sticks.
It's a goner.
And you're done.
It's a goner. Okay, so we're gonna lay this down, and if it's not perfect, I'm not gonna cry too much. Okay, and we're just gonna press it, and you can't hear it, but it's sticking. Okay, now that I know I'm lined up, I'm gonna take the rest of it, smooth it down, which I'm a little off, but I don't care. I think actually the tape was off.
It wasn't, but that's fine. I want to say that.
Pretty sure the tape was off, but whatever. All right. So you can, if you're doing a piece of furniture, you may want to tape this on, because if the drawers are, you know, vertical, it'll stick pretty good, but you're going to be doing a lot of rubbing, so I would recommend taping it. So we're going to push it down.
Kinley asks can you put a transfer on a, actually it says piece, but I'm assuming she meant piece that already has satin top coat?
So if you usually want to put your transfer right onto your paint, and then do your top coat over it. I mean, if it's been top coated and it's old, you know, you didn't just freshly put a top coat on it, you can give it a sanding, you know, and go ahead and put it on. And I've seen people, or I've seen people online on some of the different groups that have had success putting it on over a top coat. But I think your best bet is to put it on fresh paint. Okay, so we're gonna take our stick, and you don't need to like put all your elbow grease into it, because it'll start to come off pretty easily. And what you're looking for is, actually you're looking and you're listening for the transfer to leave the paper where it gets a little like a little cloudy looking, and you'll hear it actually leave the paper. So it just sounds like a little bit of a crackling. I don't know if you guys hear that or not. So the best thing you can do is kind of ride the wave with that. If you can get a big air bubble under there and just ride it, that is the perfect scenario. You won't always get that, but if you can, that's a good thing. So don't get nervous when you start hearing it making a lot of crackling noises. Just kind of keep going with it. You can use this, and you don't have to use this stick. I mean, you can use a craft stick.
Credit card,
whatever you want. You can use it on its side. You can use it this way. I try to work from the inside out on this, so just kind of going towards the edges.
Whatever edge you use on the scraper, make sure it's flat.
Yes, yeah.
You don't want to use the ends.
And be careful, because sometimes you get a little overzealous and you can go right off your transfer paper onto your piece and
scratch it.
Take off some of your paint. Yeah. So we're just going to go over this all now. I mean, I heard a lot of it, and I can see a big old air bubble in here, which is good. So air bubbles at this point are a good thing. Air bubbles after you release your transfer are not a good thing. So we'll show you how to check for that and how to get rid of them. And just because you don't get that change in color doesn't mean your transfer isn't adhered. Because sometimes it doesn't change, but it'll still be adhered. And the key with this is just patience, making sure you hit everything. And then when
Betty's in Facebook jail.
I saw that yesterday, Betty. You're not out of jail yet? What you doing, girl? All right, so we're gonna start peeling. Pick an edge and go slow. And as you peel up, if you see it start to come up, can you see that on there?
Right. Let me get out of the light there. Right there, where it's still attached to the paper.
Lay it back down and scrape it and keep going.
Nice. That is some good camera work. Even though the phone's upside down.
Yeah, I know. I'm like, okay, we're upside down, we're backwards. I'm gonna start over here.
Oop, right.
Whoa.
That's wrong.
Nobody panic.
Put it back, put it back.
Put it back. Oh, so a lot of these little words are. There it goes. Okay. Wait for it.
Okay. More words.
Sound like we're talking to the kids or the dogs.
The dog. Put it back.
Put it back. Drop it. Drop it. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I didn't really get a good air bubble in here, so I think I'm having to work a little bit more. And I'm also going probably a little faster just because of doing a video, and I think we've been on for 40 minutes.
Carol's asking, she says, it looks kind of hard. Did it take you a while to get this technique right?
Putting the transfer on? No, I mean, I think you kind of learn a lot on the first one. And, you know, watch these videos.
They're so reasonably priced.
They are.
That even if you mess one up.
Like, you don't feel...
like, oh my God, I just wasted $150.
I mean, you know, they're not super cheap, but here's what I would recommend. I would get, if you've never done one before, I'll give you the name of a couple that are really good to start with, because you can cut them. You don't have to press. You don't have to press that hard until you break the stick. There's a couple that are really good to start with because you can cut them up and do them on smaller projects. Unlike this one, you know, that we're using all in one piece. The Parisian butterflies is a perfect one if you've never done one before. It comes in a bunch of different sheets, and they're all separate little butterflies and birds and branches. And you can do some little projects. Just getting your technique down. Oh, there's a good bubble. That just like that whole thing just lifted. That was perfect. Yeah. So look for the ones with multiple sheets that have separate designs. And then that was good too. So I don't know if you guys could see that or not, but like it just took an air bubble and the whole thing peeled off. So that's perfect.
So do you have to do this all at once, or like while you're doing the transfer, if you need to walk away from it, can you walk away from it and come back?
Yeah, you can walk away.
Where do you find those transfers? Zelda wants to know.
Zelda, these are Redesign with Prima. So they have independent retailers. I have a link up in our description, and I stock almost every one that they sell. So you're free to order from me, or go to the Prima Redesign with Prima website and see if you have a local retailer.
You're not the same Zelda from the video game, are you?
Ooh. God, we would play that for hours. Hours. All right, we're getting close, guys. I know it's taking a while.
What does this one cost?
This one we sell for $29, and there's 4 sheets in it.
Yeah, that's 4 separate ones.
Yeah.
Zelda says she's older.
What did we say when we went to bed last night? We're like, I feel old.
We're old. Wow.
Everything was aching, and all right. I think we are
almost there.
I think we're done.
Wow.
Ah, love it. And so I just learned yesterday from another retailer, and I wish I knew her name. I can't remember right now. This is great to save because you can stick like reusable stencils and things on this shiny side. So we're going to keep those. And there it is. So, very important now. You're not done at this point. You need to take your finger or a soft cloth, and the goal of having success, long-term success with transfers, is to really burnish the transfer into the paint. okay? You want to make sure it's really on there and that there are no air bubbles anywhere. Because if you get an air bubble underneath your transfer and then you put a sealer over it, you could have some issues with your transfer potentially peeling up. Okay, so you know, take some extra time in this step of the game and just rub. And so I had a little bit of a, it was like a little crease there. If you just rub it, push it towards the end, it'll come out. It'll come out. And then a lot of the transfers have this, actually I think all the transfers have this little edge around them, okay? It's pretty transparent, but you can see it. So you can take a little bit of sandpaper, so a fine sandpaper, don't go getting like a 100 grit sandpaper, and you can sand the edge, and that will get rid of, I don't know if you can even see it, but that will help get rid of that, that edge that you can see.
Just that little
If it bothers
crease
you.
right there.
Yeah, I mean, if it,
You might be able to see it, and with, you know, if the sunlight hits it just right, but
yeah. So that is it. So you'll want to seal this now. The only time I can think that you really wouldn't seal a transfer is if it's on a window. Like we have one behind you. I don't know if you'll be able to see it or not. But we have one of the new spring ones on a window. And I mean, you really can't seal it because, you know, you'll make the window cloudy with your sealer.
Yeah, it's glass.
Yeah. And it's going to be hanging on a wall, so I'm not too worried about it coming off. But for this, you want to put, so you can seal with a liquid poly, you can seal with wax. Just again, I can't stress enough that this point, this is the most important part right here. Making sure you are flat with no air bubbles at all. And then you can go ahead and put your transfer on. We get a lot of questions about how soon after I paint can I put the transfer on. And I've done it, you know, within a couple hours when the paint is dry. The instructions, which I mentioned before, you know, for your best results, always follow the instructions. It says allow at least 48 hours to 1 week for any new paint to properly cure before applying a transfer. I know many people who have done transfers much sooner after that. So,
do you make a transfer that you can print your own design on?
Not
You
that
mean
I-
like on a Cricut?
Well, that would, like, that's like an adhesive stencil, but I don't know. I mean, I don't know of anybody that does that, but that's a great question. I know there's like stencil places that will design you an adhesive stencil, so I know that Prima does not do that I'm aware of. But they do take suggestions on new transfers, so new themes. Prima has a Facebook page as well that you can go to and follow and offer suggestions on there.
So Kathy wants to know, what do we do if we have bubbles at this point?
So usually they're kind of small, and as you're rubbing, they'll kind of rub out. Push them towards the end, and just let them kind of, it's going to sound awful, but, you know, relieve themselves at the edge of your transfer. I know there are people that have taken like a small pin and popped the bubble that way. I've had one, and sometimes I had a big one, and when I rubbed it, it cracked a little bit, and then the bubble popped, and then the transfer just adhered. But there was like a little small crack in the transfer, which was fine.
Yeah. I know with vinyl, if you put a little hole at the end of the bubble, not in the center, but at the end of the bubble, and then push the air towards that hole.
Yeah. Yeah, I think, you know, the best thing to do is if you can push it out, but sometimes you may have to get creative. But just try really hard when you put it on before you release your paper, you know, that it's down really well. And these are great for distressing, so you can really take sandpaper over the whole thing. Don't rub hard because you don't want to rub it off, obviously, but you could do a little bit distressing on that too. So we're going to coat this, not today, but we're going to seal this with Dixie Belle's satin clear coat. And then we will be done, and we'll probably, I think I'm going to put handles on it instead of the Lazy Susan.
Some handles, a $600 price tag, and
We
off
sell
we
it.
go.
Yes. All right, guys. Well, if you have any questions, first of all, thanks for joining us. Jump on over to our page and follow us there, and invite your friends. And we just love to see you over on our page as well. We'll see you back on the Dixie Belle page soon. And thanks for joining. You guys have a great week. Happy Monday. Toodaloo.